Hi dear students, welcome to Amha's Educational Institution's online class. This presentation includes the explanation of Unit 6, Mysteries and Superstitions, Lesson 2, in your book, New Streams in English, Volume 1. The presentation is presented to you by Mr. Hassan Amhaz. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to use context clues to determine the meaning of new lexes, read to identify the topic explored, respond to different types of questions, inferential and referential, write sentences or a paragraph using vocabulary words. To follow up properly, please get your reading book, New Streams in English, Volume 1, and a pencil to jot down some important notes. Paragraph 3. Interest in the mystery surfaced again in the late 50s, after a Russian army colonel reasoned that only a nuclear explosion could have caused the bizarre wreckage at Tunguska. Since humans didn't have the technology then, he suggested in a book that the explosion in 1908 was caused by an exploding spaceship. Other Russian scientists then decided that they could solve the mystery. It turned out that they too couldn't come to any decisive conclusion. So, in the late 50s, a Russian army colonel was interested in solving the mystery of the Siberian explosion we are talking about, and he suggested that only a nuclear explosion could have caused the bizarre wreckage at Tunguska. Bizarre means strange and unusual. So, what could have caused such a strange and unusual wreckage at Tunguska would be a nuclear explosion, according to the Russian army colonel. Wreckage means broken parts of something destroyed. And since humans didn't have the technology then, in the 50s, he suggested in a book that the explosion might be caused by an exploding spaceship. A spaceship is a vehicle used for space travel. Other Russian scientists after that tried to solve the mystery, but they couldn't. They couldn't come up with any decisive conclusion. Decisive conclusion is a conclusion that is unquestionable and unmistakable. It should be so convincing. Paragraph 4. For 3 decades, Tunguska remained an exclusively Russian scientific investigation because the two nearest cities, Tomsk and Krasnoyarsk, were centers for research into military technology and thus close to foreigners. With the end of the Cold War, other scientists were at last able to study the site. Using the latest techniques, these Western researchers found tiny particles with an extraterrestrial signature embedded in the Tunguska trees. So, for 3 decades, a decade is equal to 10 years, 3 decades means 30 years, Tunguska remained an exclusively Russian scientific investigation. So only Russians were allowed to do their investigation. Scientific investigation. Investigation means researchers to find out something. Why? Because the two nearest cities that were near the area of the explosion, Tomsk and Krasnoyarsk, were centers for research into military technology. So researchers for military technology were held there. Military means relating to soldiers and army, and thus close to foreigners. So as we said before, only Russians were allowed there, and it was closed for foreigners. Foreigners are people who belong to countries other than Russia. With the end of the Cold War, other scientists were at last able to study the site, the location of the explosion. Using the latest techniques, the very up-to-date techniques, these Western researchers from America and Europe, found tiny particles, very small particles, with an extraterrestrial signature. Extraterrestrial means existing outside the Earth, attached, embedded, attached in the Tunguska trees, so they found signs that are extraterrestrial. They don't belong to our planet Earth, attached on the trees in Tunguska. Paragraph 5. Combined with computer simulations, the evidence points to a meteorite that fragmented in the atmosphere. For many researchers, the debate is no longer whether the cause was a meteorite, but exactly what kind of meteorite. Continuing the studies has a very practical aspect to it. Impacts of comets or meteorites, collectively known as bolides, are a worthwhile subject of study for scientists. In 1994, a comet named Shoemaker-Levy gave the planet Jupiter a black eye when it collided into it. Bolides have peppered Earth in the past as well. Scientists suspect that a particularly big bolide caused the extinction of dinosaurs millions of years ago. There is always a possibility of another strike in the future. So, combined with computer simulations, the evidence points to a meteorite. All the pieces of evidence show that what caused the mysterious explosion we are talking about was a meteorite that fragmented in the atmosphere. It was broken into pieces in the atmosphere, then one piece of it hit that area in Siberia. For many researchers, the debate is no longer whether the cause was a meteorite, but exactly what kind of meteorite. So, they were pretty sure that what caused the mysterious explosion we are talking about is a meteorite. But what kind of meteorite that didn't leave behind any trace? Continuing the studies has a very practical aspect to it. Impacts of comets or meteorites, collectively known as bolides. So, impacts means effects of comets or meteorites that are known also as bolides, large meteors or fireballs, are a worthwhile subject of study for scientists. So scientists are still studying the effects of such strange bodies like comets, meteors. In 1994, a comet named Shoemaker-Levy gave planet Jupiter a black eye. It hit planet Jupiter, crashed into it. Collided means crashed into it. Bolides have peppered Earth in the past as well. So many bolides peppered Earth, they hit our planet Earth in the past. Scientists suspect that a particularly big bolide caused the extinction of dinosaurs. So dinosaurs disappeared, they died out, or they don't exist anymore because of a big bolide millions of years ago. There is always a possibility of another strike, who knows, in the future.